Israel is preparing for a ground entry into Lebanon as the IDF changes the rules of the game. This includes the elimination of Hezbollah's leader, Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, in an airstrike on Friday afternoon, using more than 80 bunker-busting bombs that weighed over a ton each. By Saturday afternoon, Hezbollah had confirmed that their leader had been eliminated, as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared the elimination of Nasrallah promotes the return of the residents of the north and the return of the kidnapped in the south. Meanwhile, Hassan Khalil Yassin, a senior Hezbollah intelligence officer, was eliminated by an airstrike in Beirut, and another attack in Dahia was directed against the deputy head of the organization's executive council. According to a report by Reuters, Israel also attacked an industrial area 500 meters from the Beirut airport, while a missile from Yemen was intercepted after causing fire in the area of Judea and Samaria. In the Gaza Strip, what's left of Hamas is trembling with fear, having been defeated on the battlefield and reduced to a fraction of its former power. Also, following the assassination of Nasrallah, Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, has changed its location as the IDF prepares for one more major push in the Gaza Strip. Looking at the big picture, the issue in Gaza is nearly resolved. The problem of Hezbollah is rapidly being sorted out, and now the regime that rules in Iran is running out of proxies to hide behind and might soon have to fight for itself. We'll see how they like that. We had a busy weekend, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 259th day of the war against Iran, the head of the axis of evil, and all its terror proxies, including Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and other Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria. A second before we start, guys, take a minute and look for the subscribe button and click on it so that you will never miss a single episode of Boots on the Ground on YouTube. Israel is changing the rules of the game in the Middle East and showing everyone, both our friends and our enemies, that we are a force to be reckoned with. The airstrike that took out Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah was massive by any standard. It featured more than 80 bunker buster bombs because we knew the bunker was strong and we had to make sure. This was not just any ordinary command post. It was the main headquarters for Hezbollah in the Dahia district of Beirut. The IDF announced right away that Nasrallah was the target of the strike, and the initial reports were that there was a high likelihood that he had been eliminated, along with several other senior Hezbollah commanders. As the hours passed, the IDF said that their confidence was growing, that the mission had been a success, and by Saturday morning, they officially announced that Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, was assassinated. A few hours later, confirmation also came from Hezbollah itself in the form of an announcement on social media. The tone of the Hezbollah statement was defiant, saying that the battle will continue with Hezbollah replacing Nasrallah and all the other leaders that they've lost so far. It also said that this was being done in support of Gaza and Palestine and in defense of Lebanon and its people. Needless to say, Hezbollah has not issued any statements to address the large crowds of Lebanese people who have taken to the streets to celebrate the news of Nasrallah's demise, or for that matter, all the people in Syria and elsewhere in the Middle East who are also celebrating. In this context, it's worth mentioning that some analysts have speculated that it was Lebanon's own intelligence service that gave Israel the information about where Nasrallah would be so they could target him. But as with all such speculation, we'll probably never know for sure. However, some details have emerged about the way in which this dramatic operation was carried out. The operation was codenamed New Order, and it involved Squadron 69, nicknamed the Maccabees, and consisted of F-15I heavy bombers. In the video released by the IDF, the commander of the Air Force, Major General Tomer Bar, can be heard saying to the pilots after the attack, "You brought a victory display. I hope we have destroyed this terrorist organization." the pilot answered him, "We will reach everywhere and everyone, and we will do whatever is necessary to return the abductees and the residents of the North home." Following this historic operation, more Air Force strikes were made on Hezbollah infrastructure and weapons depots in the Dahia neighborhood of southern Beirut and throughout Lebanon. This reportedly included an array of highly sophisticated anti-ship missiles that could have been used to target Israel's offshore natural gas platforms and the Navy. Other strategic weapons, as well as weapons production sites and military infrastructure, were also targeted. Many of these weapons had been placed underneath residential buildings in Beirut, and the IDF has provided evidence for this practice by Hezbollah in recent days. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi spoke on Saturday, declaring that this is not the end of the toolbox. This should be very clear. There are more tools to be used. And the message is a simple one. Whoever threatens the citizens of the State of Israel, we will know how to get to him, in the north, in the south, even in more distant places. In the end, we are after a long period of preparation, of a lot of capabilities for Lebanon, and we have begun to implement. This attack was also prepared for a long time, and it came out at the right time in a very sharp way. And now, we move on to preparing the following things in a very sharp way. We are at the peak readiness in all sectors. All the forces are very ready. Meanwhile, the leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, did not explicitly threaten Israel after confirming the elimination of Nasrallah, and only said that the fate of the region will be determined by the resistance forces. You can stay up to date with what is happening in Israel in real time by going to tbnisrael.com/news. This is our news reporting site. Let us bring you all the updates and in-depth articles about what is happening in Israel in real time. So if you want to receive additional updates, go to TBN Israel on social media networks or visit our website. Before we continue, let me give you some more analysis and some of my own thoughts about what is happening on Israel's northern border. The assassination of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah on Friday is another link in a series of painful blows suffered by the organization in recent times. The battle on Israel's northern front began on October 8, when Lebanon began firing rockets into Israel in order to support Hamas a day after it started this war by massacring Israeli civilians in the Gaza border communities. While the IDF's first priority was to eliminate the threat from Hamas, we always knew that Hezbollah had far more power to hurt Israel, and so large IDF forces were sent to the northern border to protect it from this threat. There was a very real fear that Hezbollah would take advantage of Israel's shock and confusion following the Hamas attack and will hit us in the north. I was one of the IDF soldiers who initially got sent up north, and maybe another time I'll tell you some stories about that. But Hezbollah was just as surprised by the Hamas attack as everyone else, and it soon became apparent that they were not prepared to launch a major offensive against Israel, and so the war in the north soon settled into a routine. Hezbollah kept up what could be called a steady stream of harassing fire, which made it necessary for the IDF to keep large forces on the border, and also forced almost 100,000 Israeli residents of northern communities to evacuate south. This situation stayed relatively static for almost 11 months. But about 10 days ago, Israel decided to break this stalemate. It began with Israel's government formally declared that returning Israeli residents to their homes in the northern Israeli communities was a major war aim, and then things began to move. One morning, thousands of Hezbollah operatives heard their pagers beeping with an incoming message, and when they raised them to their eye level to see the incoming message on the small screens, the pagers exploded. Several terrorists were killed and thousands more were wounded, many of them very seriously. A day later, many more were injured in the explosions of radios held by Hezbollah members. In total, it is estimated that approximately 1,500 Hezbollah operatives were rendered combat ineffective from this attack, having lost the use of their eyes and hands. 2 days later, the commander of the Radwan force, Ibrahim Akil, who was also wanted by the United States for his involvement in the bombing of the United States Embassy and Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983, was eliminated by an Israeli attack. 16 other senior Radwan force operatives were also eliminated in this attack. These evil men were the architects of the plan of the occupation of the Galilee, which was meant to copy Hamas in its attacks of October 7. A day later, Ibrahim Muhammad Kabasi, who commanded the various missile units of Hezbollah, including the precision missile units, was eliminated. Finally, this last Friday came the harshest blow of all, when this airstrike on Hezbollah main headquarters in Beirut eliminated Hassan Nasrallah himself, along with many of the surviving senior leadership of the organization, and also, reportedly, an Iranian IRGC general. This brings Nasrallah's 32-year career as Hezbollah's leader to a fitting conclusion. During his 32 years in office, he was responsible for the murder of many Israeli citizens and soldiers, and for the planning and execution of thousands of terrorist acts against Israel and around the world. Beyond terrorism, he has also presided over Hezbollah's global involvement in narcotics, trafficking, and other criminal activities. That brings us to the latest developments on Sunday morning, as the IDF has mobilized large numbers of reserve soldiers for a possible ground invasion into southern Lebanon to push the remnants of Hezbollah forces north of the Litani River. American officials told the ABC News network that small-scale cross-border incursions might have already begun. This is a good place to mention that large numbers of Hezbollah rockets, missiles, and UAVs continue to be fired into Israel from southern Lebanon and even further north. These weapons are not just fireworks, they're very dangerous, and they have already caused massive damage to buildings, forests, and agricultural areas. They have also caused many wounds and injuries amongst Israeli civilians and soldiers, and these wounds and injuries are treated by the volunteers of Magen David Adom. Magen David Adom has over 35,000 volunteers from all segments of Israeli society, and they are always amongst the first to respond to any rocket strike, terror attack, car accident, natural disaster, or anything else that involves people that are being hurt or injured. They usually arrive at the scene within minutes, and oftentimes they put their own lives at risk by caring for those who need help. That is why TBN Israel is proud to partner with Magen David Adom to get them the help they need. They are entirely funded by donations, and we're asking our friends around the world to donate to them so that they can continue their life-saving work here in Israel. You can donate to Magen David Adom by visiting their website at savelifeisrael.com. Now back to the news. Even as we're recording this video, the battle to degrade Hezbollah's ability to attack Israel continues with strikes on command and control facilities, rocket launchers, weapons depots, and more. Hezbollah is continuing to fire at Israel despite all of this, and the Jordanian army announced on Sunday morning that one Hezbollah rocket had landed in their territory, causing no damage or injuries. Elsewhere, the Israeli Navy intercepted another suicide drone on its way to hit the Red Sea resort city of Eilat over the weekend. The drone was approaching Eilat from the east, meaning it was probably fired by Iranian-backed Shiite militias in southern Iraq. Israeli aircrafts also reportedly struck a weapons storage facility used by the allies of Hezbollah in Syria. This is part of Israel's policy of intercepting the flow of weapons from Iran and Syria to Hezbollah. Another report indicated that the Air Force has attacked Hezbollah crews attempting to repair border crossings between Syria and Lebanon used for this purpose. The IDF has also let it be known that they will not allow aircrafts from Iran and Syria to land at the Beirut International Airport, and at least one commercial flight from Iran to Beirut turned back shortly after this announcement was made on Saturday. This policy also includes ships sailing from Iran into Lebanon. While all of this is going on, there is a large movement of residents of southern Lebanon moving north to avoid the fighting. So far, at least 600,000 people have fled the south, and another 400,000 are estimated to have fled from the southern Beirut district of Dakhia, which is a Hezbollah stronghold and has been heavily attacked by Israel. Therefore, there are now about 1 million displaced Lebanese outside their homes, and that gives us no pleasure whatsoever. Those people deserve to live peacefully in their own homes as much as Israel's northern residents do, and Hezbollah is responsible for them not being able to. On that note, the IDF issued a statement on Saturday saying that Hezbollah had a wrong assessment of the situation. We chose a method that brings us to the existing result that Hezbollah has more capabilities, but so far it has implemented a tenth of what it planned because we blindsided them. We damaged its large stockpiles of weapons and its command and control capabilities. It's not for nothing that it almost stopped firing. We should let everyone know about their losses because there are many. Additionally, there are those in the IDF who estimate that Nasrallah's successor will not be a single figure, but rather a number of parties who will divide his military, civil, and organizational rules between them, internally and externally. The IDF issued a statement about all of this, saying those who have been eliminated at the top of Hezbollah already have a third and a fourth replacement, and we are studying them as well to eliminate them too. For instance, the IDF struck Hassan Khalil Yassin, one of the surviving senior members of Hezbollah's intelligence units, on Saturday evening. This evil man was in charge of picking which military bases and civilian communities in northern Israel the Hezbollah rocket crews should be shooting at. According to the IDF, he has been very busy in recent days, but he won't be directing fire at Israelis anymore. Another accomplishment came from the IDF cyber warfare units, who reportedly hacked into the air traffic control system at the Beirut International Airport and directed a Boeing 747 of the Iranian airline Qassam Air, which was on its way from Tehran to Beirut, to turn around. The route, which flies regularly between Iran and Lebanon, is believed to be used to smuggle weapons to Hezbollah, and Israel has let it be known that this will not be tolerated any longer. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on everything that happens in this war. But please continue to spread the truth, share and follow us, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. This is the best thing that you can do to help us reach more people. And if you'd like to receive additional videos like this one, please consider making a financial donation by going to our website at www.tbnisrael.com/give or click the donate button on YouTube. Thank you for helping us share the truth of what is happening in Israel. Switching our focus to the Gaza Strip, it is apparent that Hamas understands that the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah and most of his senior terrorist operatives have changed the rules of this game. Yair and other surviving Hamas leaders are afraid they will be next, and they're frantically looking for new places to hide. According to a report on Saturday in the El Arabiya network, a news portal owned by the Saudi royal family, Sinwar has changed his location in Gaza and made other changes to his personal security regime. Critically, he has decided to suspend communications with the Hamas leadership outside of the Gaza Strip, and other senior Hamas leaders have gone to the ground, suspending their own movements in order to minimize their chances of being detected and eliminated. As previously reported, there are unconfirmed reports that Sinwar has actually already died, but there is no way to know for sure at this moment, so we should all assume that this is not the case. However, the IDF is ready to declare that Hamas has been defeated in military terms and no longer has the capability for large-scale maneuvers. It has been reduced to a guerrilla army, but it is still dangerous, and the IDF still has work to do in the Gaza Strip. At the top of the list, of course, is the return of the remaining Israeli hostages, and that work won't stop until every single one of these hostages is accounted for. So guys, please keep spreading the truth by sharing this video on YouTube and subscribing to this YouTube channel. Take a minute to find the subscribe button and press on it so that together we can give the truth its rightful place. I will conclude with some comments on the strategic situation here in the Middle East. To put it very bluntly, Iran is in serious trouble, and the regime that rules that country has only itself to blame. The terrorist organizations that built up on Israel's borders to try and harass and intimidate us while they continue building nuclear weapons and exporting their Islamic revolution have suffered many defeats. Hezbollah in particular, which Iran has invested in for 40 years, has been almost completely annihilated when you're talking about its leadership and communication abilities. The severe blows suffered by Hezbollah, including the assassination of its leader Hassan Nasrallah, constitutes a political earthquake in the Middle East. What would be the possible consequences? What is the important message for the United States and its allies in this region, as well as its enemies? I would like to invite Mati Shoshani to explain to us the situation.
Thank you, Yair, Pinto. These are indeed difficult questions. There's simply no charismatic leader in Lebanon who could in the foreseeable future step into the shoes of terrorist leader Hassan Nasrallah. His assassination is a very hard blow to the Iranian resistance axis, no less than the assassination of Qasem Soleimani 4 years ago. In the Lebanese domestic arena, when the smoke clears from this failed war against Israel, which Hezbollah has initiated, by the way, serious accusations will be made. Hezbollah has brought disaster to the land of cedars, and there will be a big price to pay. The downfall of Hezbollah will undoubtedly reflect on its political power in Lebanon, but this also changes the regional balance against Iran. Iran's mistake was to embrace Hamas and the Palestinians on its side. To this very day, everyone who marched hand in hand with the Palestinians was only damaged in the end, and that includes Jordan, Lebanon, Tunisia, and the list goes on and on. Meanwhile, the moves in northern Israel are being conducted according to the plans built by the IDF intelligence over almost 20 years of planning. A stage-by-stage plan to defeat and dismantle Hezbollah, or at least change the reality in the Middle East and build a new regional order. Iran is and always has been a key part of the security architecture in this region, for better and for worse. Iran invested a great deal of effort in building Hezbollah as a military entity that could threaten the very existence of Israel. In its security concept, it sought to create a balance of terror in the region against Israel, against Sunni Arab countries, and above all, and above everything else, against the United States and its allies. The Ayatollah regime believed that such a balance would be their insurance policy and would allow them to expand and export the revolution while becoming a nuclear state. However, this is a big however, Israel is not distracted by all the background noises in this area and the threats that are being thrown around every day and everywhere. We're operating in a calm, in an orderly, in a calculated manner. According to the phase plan, everyone in the IDF knows. Today, every soldier, every commander knows what's happening today, what's happening tomorrow, and what the big plan is. And even though things can change and can be fluid, the expectation is that the IDF's plan will be carried out. Results, of course, can vary, as doctors say in the US, and challenging events can happen, but in the end, our plan will prevail. Israel is conducting its campaign according to an orderly plan with lots of modesty on the part of commanders and fighters alike. As it is, we'll continue to see where the wind blows in the Middle East, but it seems that for now, a new era has opened in Israel's war for its existence. Now back to Yair Pinto.
Thanks, Mati. And guys, keep spreading the truth, share, and follow us. And stay tuned to the truth in real time through our website at tbnisrael.com/news. You will get updates on what is happening here on the war with boots on the ground and more programs. And more importantly, it is important for all of us to unite in prayer. So guys, please pray for the truth. Please pray for the resilience of the IDF soldiers. Pray for the quick return home of our abductees in Gaza. Pray for peace with the people of Israel. And most importantly, don't forget to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.